I actually applied at Amazon and went through
Oh,
that
really?
interview process. So I'd be
How many
curious what
leadership principles did you have to cite?
14, right?
That's like, I think they have like 90 leadership principles.
Really?
They like companies all have their own set of values and principles and like core pillars or however they want to
theirs
market
is
it.
just like never go home from work.
Yeah.
Just
basically.
work as much as you humanly possibly
I mean,
can.
they frame it more diplomatically, but yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. I ate it in the interview. I did terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something that like for weeks I couldn't believe that I got the interview, and the job I was working before, it was like probably the compensation was like 40% difference.
Okay. Like 40% higher at Amazon.
But when you factor in everything with like what the actual options are and the vesting aspects of that, this is the nerdiest podcast I've done for sure. But it looked really enticing on paper, but then when I like broke it all down, it wasn't as good. And
were they offering the like 5, 40, 40 vesting for their options? Like you get 5% the first year, 5% the second year, 40% and 40% the third and fourth years.
Yeah, but then they cut most people within those first 2 years, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's so if you remove the human element from it, like if you remove emotion and like the concept of treating people nicely or well, it's actually a really brilliant compensation strategy, because then they can recruit people in under the promise of paying them all this money and then let them go or kind of manage them out before they actually get to vest those options.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, do a lot of people just like they want to quit after 2 years?
So I'm not citing any data here. I'm just speaking anecdotally from conversations.
Well, there's a lot
I've
of people. Yeah, a lot of people locally that I'm sure you know who've worked there.
Yeah.
I know people that work there too, but
I mean, like Amazon has a reputation for being a real grinder of a tech company. They're not Grinder, but to be very clear about that, they just grind people out. And I don't know, like, you know, a lot of tech companies, because this is Seattle and we have a lot of tech companies, espouse ideals of having a great culture and being a great place to work and like really caring about their employees, and Amazon doesn't do any of that, and I'll give them credit for that. Like they're very straightforward about, you will come here and work really, really, really hard, and we will pay you a dragon's den's worth of gold if you can make it to the end of 4 years.
yeah. How many people do you think do?
Man, that's a tough question. I have to imagine not a lot. Like a lot
And
of
they have
people
to be like just crazy human beings.
motivated and young. Like I think Amazon, I've heard, is at least a couple
It's a
of years
very
ago.
nice way of putting just like
Listen,
win at all costs.
I have been described as obnoxiously wholesome, and I think that my optimistic worldview has probably gotten me into a lot of trouble. And it's probably going to get me into trouble when it comes to characterizing Amazon, because I'm like, let's look on the bright side. To be clear, I don't love Amazon's work model. I don't love their compensation model. I don't love how they treat employees. But at the very least,
when you can get something delivered in
listen,
2 hours or less, it's fantastic.
I use Amazon. It is amazing.
It's great. Yeah.
I went to a wedding a couple of years ago, and instead of like shopping for a nice couture dress that would fit me, I just bought 7 dresses on Amazon and returned 6 of them to the Whole Foods 2 blocks from where I live.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's.
I mean,
it's
let's
amazing.
just stop shitting on them. Who cares what it takes to make that happen?
Is this just going to be an hour of HR Amazon?
No,
discussing?
I wanted to talk to you about my interview because like I was so excited for this interview, and I like
what was the job?
that was the first curveball.
Okay.
The job was for soft goods marketing, and it was supposed to be in sporting goods.
Okay.
And I got there and like, how do you feel about lighting? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, that's what group you're being hired into if you get this job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is lighting? Like I had no idea what they were even like lighting in an office space. And they're like, just lighting. How do you feel about it? I'm like, I don't know anything about lighting. Like and all of the interview questions were, I was so bad at everything. And it's 8 hours
Wait.
where you just getting there's stacked interviews where you see a different person from the group basically, or like other managers, and they gave me like all these equations or like just problems to solve to like see how I solved the problem. And I was just so bad at it. Like I would be like, this is what I think the answer is. And they're like, okay, elaborate a little further. And be like, that's what I got. You know, like it wasn't great.
So, one, I'm sorry, that sounds like a real shitty interview experience. And two, that is such a common experience, I think, in the tech sector to engage with a candidate under the premise of hiring them into one job and then immediately kind of shift things like it's a bait and switch.
Yeah.
And it's very casual. Like, you know, they'll oftentimes be like, hey, we want to talk to you about this role at this level, bring you in for the interview, and then be like, we actually are interviewing you for this role at a level below what we advertised to you. And the money is just still such a step up from where you probably are.
Yeah.
Because Amazon has, you know, infinite money that you wrestle with it for a day or two, and then you go, yeah, of course I'll still interview for this job.
It's like competitive enough for you to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't really give a shit what the job title is. Like that money, and I that regard, I actually kind of respect it because it's both your cards are sort of out on the table. Like people are taking that job because of the comp, and then, you know, or they're taking that, they're not applying to that job.
Yeah.
But I kind of respect that.
I mean, I respect it in the same way that I can respect a casino having like millions of dollars to use as leverage against players, because like that's I think what a lot of the interview process is in high stress situations where like there's a lot of money at stake, is they don't really care if you walk away because they have an infinite pool of other candidates they can pull from, so they can fuck with you all they want. They can lower the money by 20%. They can change the job. They can change the department. They can change the product that you're working on.
Okay, here's just a selfish question. As somebody that is in that field, like if a company like that, doesn't have to be Amazon, but if they offer you, say, $80,000 a year,
sure,
right? And that's their first offer, should you always like counteroffer?
Yeah. So I'd say that in any negotiating situation with any job offer, if they make you an offer, 99% of the time that means that they really want you. And if you ask for a counteroffer, if you counter with like, you know, 10% more, 20% more, the worst they're going to do 99% of the time is just say, sorry, we can't do that.
Hey, if you like that video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and follow our page for new weekly content.